প্রিয় দর্শক, আসসালামু আলাইকুম। কোর ভিশন ফাউন্ডেশনের উদ্যোক্তা উন্নয়ন কার্যক্রম ভিশন ফর সাকসেসে স্বাগতম। দর্শক, সফলতা আমাদের সবার কাম্য। প্রতিটি ক্ষেত্রে আমরা এর জন্য করছি প্রতিযোগিতা, কিন্তু সফলতার সংজ্ঞা, এর মাপকাঠি কি আমরা জানি? সম্পদ, নাম, ক্ষমতা পেলেই কি আমি সফল? কোরআন ও সুন্নাহর আলোকে এসব প্রশ্নের উত্তর খুঁজতেই কোর ভিশন ফাউন্ডেশনের উদ্যোক্তা উন্নয়ন কার্যক্রম ভিশন ফর সাকসেস। আমরা আলোচনা করছিলাম সূরা বাকারা। আজকের আলোচনা সাম লেসন্স ফ্রম সূরা বাকারা অ্যাবাউট Ramadan, how Ramadan teaches us. Here with us, Imam Shamsi Ali, Director, Jamaica Muslim Center. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa barakatuh.
How are you?
Alhamdulillah.
So we are discussing about Surah Baqarah, a few ayats. So we want to continue.
Yes, so I think today, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alhamdulillah, Salatu Wassalam ala Rasulillah. I would like to talk about Surah Al-Baqarah 183. And Surah Al-Baqarah 183 is primarily talking about the obligation of fasting of Ramadan. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, kutiba alaykumus siyam, kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum, la'allakum tattaqun. In this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want to tell us that, all believers, or you who believe, fasting is prescribed upon you as it was prescribed upon those who before you, so that you may gain self-restraint. Now, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ has a lot of translation, but in essence means so that you can have the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you can fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, there are three main points that I would like to underline from this ayah. Number one, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. Number two, kutiba alaykumus siyam. And then number three, la'allakum tattaqun. So the first one is I'm going to talk about why fasting is related to Iman. And I think the answer to that is because fasting is a very personal in nature. Means when you do fasting, no third person involved. Nobody knows that you're fasting. You may pretend to do fast, you may pretend to be hungry or thirsty, but in truth that you are not fasting. You can go beyond the wall and drink or eat food, and nobody knows. But when you're doing fasting, that is an absolute personal practice between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm doing fasting personally, privately to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is the reason why fasting is considered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself as a worship that belongs directly to him. It's not owned by servants. We don't own it. But fasting is owned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he says in Hadith al-Qudsi, Hadith Qudsi means a hadith which is being narrated by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it is expressed by Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's words. It's called Hadith al-Qudsi. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, narrating this hadith from Allah, Kullu amali bin Adam lahu. All acts that Bani Adam is doing, all actions, belongs to them. Illa siyam, except fasting. فَإِنَّهُ لِي, that fasting belongs to me. وَأَنَا أَجْزِي بِهِ, and I am rewarding the fasting directly. Means not through anybody. The reason is because it is very close connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is tremendously a private, personal worship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why, because of that nature, fasting basically teaches us to build a sense of faith. In other words, that it trains us to build a sense of ihsan. And the meaning of ihsan, an ta'budallah ka'annaka tarahu, fa'in lam takun tarahu fa'innahu yarak, means that we are doing fasting is build an essence of that we are seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm fasting, looks like I'm seeing Allah. Allah is there all the time. And if I cannot go to that level that looks like I'm seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then I have to develop a belief or faith that Allah is seeing me. And that's what the belief is all about. Being watched, being seen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows everything that we are doing. That kind of essence of faith is being rebuilt in the month of Ramadan. And that's why we hope that at the end of Ramadan, our iman decreases tremendously. If before Ramadan our iman is just like 10%, 20%, maybe in the masjid we remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, outside of the masjid we forget Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that after Ramadan our iman must increase to become 50% or 70%. So every time we feel that we are being watched by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every time we go anywhere at any time, we feel that Allah is there with us. Looks like we are seeing Him.
Is it the Ya ayyuhallazina amanu, that means to do the fasting somebody needs to be what's the
Mu'min.
or he must have a
Yes, it's also the meaning. So I'm talking about the purpose of fasting, and that is based on building iman. But the meaning also that you cannot fast without iman. It is one of the requirements.
somebody without iman, if do fasting,
course.
that is not desirable to.
Yeah, in other words, it's not only desirable, it is not required. Also, when someone is fasting and fulfill the requirement of fasting, it is the indication of iman. So in other words, that people might not eat. There are many people can be away from drink, but it's not necessarily fasting. Fasting is something different. Fasting is not only that you don't eat, you don't drink, but more importantly, you are training yourself to be away from every desire that can distract you from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that can take you away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So food and drink basically is just a symbol of it. But the most important is that anything in terms of desire, hawa, that can take you away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's what you need to abstain and restrain. And that's why fasting, the essence of fasting is what they call in Arabic al-imsak. That is to hold, to restrain, to fight back. So every time that my desire wanted to bring me to somewhere that Allah doesn't like, I have to fight and I have to restrain myself. That's what fasting is all about. So the definition of fasting basically in Sharia is very simple. Our ulama used to say that fasting is al-imsaku an al-ta'am wal-sharab wal-jima' min ba'di tulu' al-fajr al-thani ila ghurub al-shams. That's what fasting is all about. So fasting is to abstain from food, drink, and marital sexual relations from dawn to sunset. That's what's fasting. But lillahi ta'ala, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This definition gives you the three main pillars of fasting. Some ulama say two main pillars, but some others say three. Those who say two means fasting must be for lillahi ta'ala, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you have to have a niyat. You have to have an intention. If you don't eat, you don't drink, but your intention is not to worship Allah, it's not the fasting as well. Maybe because you want to be a little bit skinny, so you don't eat, you don't drink. So you avoid food and drink simply because you want to lose some weight. But fasting is not for that. Fasting is to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's called lillahi ta'ala. That's the intention, the sincerity in doing fasting. The second pillar of fasting is to abstain from food and drink and marital sexual relations. So these are the requirements of it. You don't eat, you don't drink, you don't have relation with husband and wife. That's what fasting is all about. But the third one, you have to do it from certain time, during the certain time, and that is from dawn to sunset. Min al-fajr thani ila ghurub al-shams. If you do it from noon to midnight, it's not fasting too. So these are the three requirements. Number one, you do it for Allah, and then you abstain from food, drink, and marital sexual relation, and then you do it between dawn and sunset. This is what the definition of fasting basically.
We'll take a short break. Dear viewers, you are watching Vision for Success. Stay with us.